All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in for a very, very, and I mean very special interview with a guy that I admire so much, even before YSN. The main man, the myth, the legend. It is Bob Sebo, former athlete, entrepreneur, and loves everybody and loves everything. And Mr. Sebo, it's an honor to be in your humble abode here tonight. I just thank you for allowing us in and allowing us some time.
Well, DJ, I appreciate you taking the time, and I always enjoy talking sports, athletes, particularly football.
Yeah.
But I'm all around. I like basketball. I love baseball. So
I see you everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw you at a basketball game recently. I see you all the time at football games. Your son plays baseball for Bowling Green.
Yep, he's outfielder for BGSU, and he's got kind of his final games coming up because he graduates April 23rd or 28th of this year.
That's incredible. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it does. It does seem like yesterday.
He's playing for United, and I remember being in the outfield watching those two teams play. Lisbon and United face off. I think it was a playoff game, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And now he and Logan Bell are on the same team at Bowling Green.
Yeah, and that was funny because it seemed in high school Parker had a total command of his batting ability. He graduated with a batting average of 656, and I don't believe there are too many players that have attained that kind of high school batting average. So yeah, he's a good athlete. He enjoys playing. He's a fun kid to be around and a smart kid. So he's a good guy, and I love watching him play.
Well, we'll talk family here in just a little bit. For some of those people who don't recall, remember, or even know, let's get started where the foundation is. I mean, you're a Salem guy through and through, played for the Quakers. To start your career, you fast as the day is long, as much as what I heard. So when you were talking about Salem, a place that is so just absolutely on your heart, you're above everybody else. I think you're proud to be a Quaker, no?
That's my lifelong love.
Yep.
I've been a Quaker from the days. Actually, in my young days, they had the Knothole Gang. And in grade school, we got to get in free for the football games. And, of course, my desire for the time I was growing up, I couldn't wait till I got to be to the high school mode where I could play football.
That's incredible. And then when you got to play football, you did it at a very high level. You started every game from your sophomore year to the third game of your senior year where you got hurt. When you were playing, before the injury, talk to me about, the pride that you had in the game of football and playing for the red and black attack that is the Salem Quakers. What was it like for you?
Well, it was a thrill. It was exciting. It was fun. I enjoyed it more than anything I can ever think of or remember. And of course, the thing I get a kick out of is today, all the equipment on the players. Back in my day, we didn't even have face masks. So,
did you have the leather helmets?
We had the leather helmets.
Oh, man.
I actually was able to. The helmet company had sent us one helmet that was a test helmet, and it was the one that had it had all the headbands inside and was more shaped like. Well, I remember the military academy, U.S. Army, had that first helmet in those days. And, boy, what a difference that was for me. I was able to, get hit, take a hit, and not have any jarring sensation. I mean, when we wore those leather helmets, and you got a bang, you got a bang.
Ring your bell, huh?
Yeah, but, it was funny. we never had a lot of concussions.
that you knew about.
Yes.
The concussion wasn't even around back then.
Right. We never did. I mean, concussions was not a thing we even talked about
Right.
or even had a concern about. I would think with those goofy old leather helmets that we would have had more. But one of the things that leads to the concussions nowadays, I told somebody the other day, I said, if I could end concussions right now, I'll tell you what you do. You just take the face masks off and, get these players to quit using their head, and it'd be a few less concussions. But back in our day, I just don't recall a lot of discussion, rather, relative to concussions.
Well, it makes you think twice. Certainly, when you have all those pads on, you
Yeah.
feel like you're invincible. I remember my first time in 7th grade. I felt like I could take on a tank.
Oh yeah, it gives you a false sense of security.
That's it. Well, people, you love football. Everybody knows you love football, but maybe people don't know that you are a football star, a track star, a basketball star, and in the ROTC as well, and in the band as well, as when you got later in the ROTC, of course, later on. But, I mean, you across the board were involved, and you are someone who loves when you see kids being multi-sport athletes and being involved in their school. Why is that so important to you?
Well, I've found that coming up, playing as a team member, particularly, and particularly in football and basketball, where you relied, on the other players to be able to complete this teamwork thing, is part of life.
Yep.
And to me, a lot of the opinions that I have generated, for myself and the way I have dealt with things, had a lot to do with what I learned about cooperation, getting something done through people by playing in the different sports that I did. So from the time I was growing up, I lived right behind Kelly Park in Salem. So I spent my entire summers on the baseball field or playing softball. Okay?
Yep.
Again, back in my day, we didn't even have Little League softball or baseball. So I grew up as a softball player playing fast pitch
At Kelly Park.
at Kelly Park. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Baseball. I can't remember when Little League started, but it had to be in the 60s, maybe, or even as late as the 70s. But back in the 50s, we didn't have Little League baseball. We didn't even have, so to speak, organized baseball. The only baseball we had was the American Legion teams. And the American Legion sponsored different baseball teams in the different cities. So that was the only baseball opportunity, and I never had much chance to play baseball. So, I grew up a total softball guy.
I love that.
Yeah.
And as a guy that played at Kelly Park in the adult leagues, I can envision it and see kind of where your comeuppance kind of came from. Sports. I mean, people ask me all the time, why is sports so important to you? You're a guy that has been a successful athlete, student athlete, and obviously an entrepreneur and a business owner. Why is it so important for you to focus in on sports? And, when you look at Salem, you have Sebo Stadium, the involvement that you have in BG. Why is it so important to you to stay with your hand on student athletes, coaches, and programs?
I think, obviously the reality of things is not every one of us are going to end up our life playing in the pros. Okay? And at some point, our ability to play on a football team ends because you only get to a certain level, and there aren't those opportunities. And because I felt that I had a lot of learning that I had on how to run a business, how to complete your life, uh, was learned through sports and the cooperation and getting a job done through people. You learn more about how to get that done in sports. So I think it's very important for young people to uh, get that opportunity to do and play a team sport. And quite frankly, not every youngster is a born athlete
Hmm.
or even has athletic skills. On the other hand, there's a sport for everybody, and everybody should have an opportunity to play it. The one thing I'm not the world's biggest soccer fan because I don't understand the game, and soccer came along long after I was in my athletic days. But soccer, in my opinion, is probably a great sport for youngsters. When you get these people playing sports beginning in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, the one sport that a person in that age can excel in is soccer because it's all running, it's all legs, and that's where kids have their best control at that time. It's very difficult for a fourth grader, a fifth grader, and sixth grader to compete in baseball or football because they aren't quite physically ready for it yet.
Hand-eye coordination, everything
Yeah,
that goes along with
yeah,
it.
yeah. Now, do I support it? Yes,
Hmm.
because it's a sport available, for everybody. But to me, a young person in that age category is better equipped to play soccer. Because it strictly takes the running and the movement of the legs, and young people seem to be able to control that a lot better. So,
So your senior year, I mean, everybody. I heard this in a movie once, and it struck me, and then stuck with me. We are not in charge typically when the game passes us by. We're not in charge when we get to hang it up 99% of the time. You were part of that 99% where you were looking to keep going. Your senior year, a devastating knee injury. What was it like for you to look at that? Looking back on it now, obviously it was so trying at the time, but looking back on it now, what did you learn from having it all and then having to go rock bottom and climb back up that ladder?
uh, I guess I learned there are other ways to satisfy your athletic needs, particularly if you've had an injury or something that has not allowed you to graduate. It's probably the main reason I am such a uh, addicted person to athletics and particularly football because I was a pretty decent high school player and I never got an opportunity to find out how good I might have been. So I've spent my whole life saying I'm a wannabe. And so that's brought me even closer to the game and closer to football. And I when I see a young person get hurt where they can't go on, I can empathize with them because uh, it established for me a lifelong pattern of my interest level and my tie to athletics and to sports. So I've called myself a lifelong wannabe, but I love the game. I love to watch young kids participate in it, and uh, you know I pull for every kid, the one that seems to be the superstar, and also the young guy that's out there plodding away, playing his best, playing his heart out. I think it motivates a young person. They learn at an early age the difference between going all out and, you know, in the game of life, you better go all out or you may come in second place.
Nobody likes second place, right?
Yeah, nobody likes second place. Yes.
Um, we talk about the injury, but without that injury, I mean, I've had adversity in my life, but I think you could probably, look it back and say, without that injury, you wouldn't be where you're at today, where you are today. What did sports and how good you were, and you're being modest, by the way, because you had 614 yards, all-purpose yards in 3 games of football your senior year, and you were being looked at by several different colleges, including Bowling Green, where you went, and they tried to get you to play, and ultimately it didn't work out for you. But with the track background, with the football background, with all the sports background that you had, how did sports in some aspect help you become the businessman, the entrepreneur that you are today?
Mostly because it bred in me a desire to win, and although coming in second is mentally disastrous, it's still, as long as I learned, as long as you were out there beating your brains out and doing the best you can and doing everything you can to succeed, generally speaking, you do. And if you don't, you move on. You learn how to accept what the outcome is and look forward to tomorrow. And me, I'm the quintessential optimistic. Everybody, all my friends laugh at me when I tell them how good Bowling Green's going to be. I tell them how good Youngstown State's going to be, and sometimes they don't quite come up to my predictions. And boy, do I take a lot of jazz from my friends on my predictions. But I always look for the good side, for the good that we have, and this is what we can do best, and this is what we have to do to win. And if we don't make it up to it on this game, we'll do it in the next game. And I never quit. And because I may have not won today, I know darn well I'm going to win tomorrow. Okay, and that's my attitude, and that's what I like to try to transmit onto younger people, and the best I could do now is be like a cheerleader and pass out a lot of attaboys for some of these good kids, and it tickles the daylights out of me to be around young athletes.
All right, Mr. Sebo, when you look at all the lives that you've touched, naturally from student athlete on up, you have made some unbelievable relationships with coaches and business people and student athletes that will never leave them. And Andy took me on a tour of your sports room, which I was just absolutely just blown away by some of the names on those helmets and footballs and baseballs and everything you have down there. For you to walk down there, I'm sure you've had time to sit and reflect on all the people and all of the relationships that you've had, all the lives that you've touched up to this point, and you're still doing it every day. You talk about winning. You're winning every day by influencing others. What's the best part of that for you? What's the part you cherish the most out of those relationships?
The best satisfaction to me is that I know that I can personally call any number of big-name coaches and just carry on a conversation with them. That, to me, is the satisfaction that I have and know. I've had great opportunities to be a part of several well-known coaches' careers, and I've been able to help place them in some positions so that they could win and move on. And for me, it's just it's a lot of personal satisfaction, and it's a lot of fun to say, yeah, I know, Coach, and it's people still today ask me what's so and so doing. Well, some days I know and some days I don't know, but what one of my my longtime friends is Coach Lou Holtz, and I played football against him in high school.
Can we tell that story?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we played East Liverpool. They had beaten us in my sophomore year and my junior year, but in my senior year, we beat them. And we beat East Liverpool 13-2. Now, the interesting part of that is all of East Liverpool's points I scored. It was the first game I'd come back after my injury in my senior year, and I wasn't quite up to my speed level, and they caught me in the end zone for 2 points. Well, so we beat East Liverpool 13-2. It's really funny because whenever I'm with Lou Holtz, who's one of the best speakers I've ever heard, but if I'm in the audience when Lou is up there speaking, he doesn't hesitate to point out that, yeah, I played football against him, and in high school at our last game, he scored all the points for our team. So I get the raspberries from Lou even to this day. So
It's incredible. I love that story. I could hear that 1,000 times and never gets old. Jim Tressel, an idol of mine, a guy that I look up to incredibly as a leader, not just a football coach, but a leader, a Christian, all that. You are very close with Coach Tressel and President Tressel, and then just Jim. You know what I mean? One of those things. Talk to me about some of the conversations that you've had with him, and I'm sure you've learned from each other along the way.
My first big intro to Coach Tressel was when my friend Doug Phillips, the current coach at Youngstown State, was on Coach Tressel's staff, and I went to one of their closed doors coaches things with the players.
Sure.
And that's when I first got introduced to Tressel's Bible. Coach Tressel has a 3-ring binder that has everything, and the interesting part about him, his lectures and leadership with the young men that he was coaching was minimally involved with football or their plays. It was how to be a better man, a better person, to be a better husband someday, a better father someday. And Jim Tressel loved his players, and Jim Tressel spent as much time making men out of boys than he did coaching them in the game of football itself. The amazing part of it is Jim Tressel's incredible talents, his ability to run a big organization, but also his ability to be a top-notch football coach. Coach Tressel knows football and knows his players and how they should be used in a game. So yeah, I got to meet Jim. He was doing a lecture to his teams, and I got to go in a closed door session. And of course, my friend Doug Phillips was the one that introduced me to him. Doug in himself is, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in college football.
I was just going to ask you that. Let's talk about Coach Phillips for a little bit. I mean, anytime you're in that leadership position, anytime you're a coach, you catch a lot of flack for decision making and things of that nature. Coach Phillips to me he's a great coach, but a better man. And I think you've known him obviously way longer than I have. You have believed in Coach Phillips, and Coach Phillips has believed in you for such a long time. What is it character-wise that stands out about Doug above most people that we would ever encounter?
It's because he's a true human being. He understands what it takes to motivate a young man.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a true interest in the success level of each one of his players. There's not an ounce of user on from Coach Phillips. He strictly is develop his players as young men, and then develop them as football players.
So there's a lot of kind of correlation between Coach Tressel and Coach Phillips.
Coach, Doug had the best of all the worlds. He got to come up through the ranks in dealing with and having exposure to superstar coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are a young, fledgling superstar potential yourself, and then you have that kind of exposure, he's going to be a success. And you mark my words, Youngstown State's going to not only win their league, they're going to be they'll be vying in the next year or two under Doug Phillips as for the national championship. I'm telling you, that's the kind of guy Doug is. And Doug, one of the secrets to his success, he is probably the best recruiter in all of college football. Doug Phillips can recruit. He knows how to spot a potential player,
yeah,
and he knows exactly what he has to do to convince that player to come play for him at his school.
And how cool is it that he's right in our backyard in Youngstown?
That tickles the daylights out of me, and I really believe Doug himself is one of those people that is true to your original places. He came up at Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
He's in this area. He's a Youngstown kind of guy. I think Doug Phillips could be the head coach tomorrow morning at any major college in the country. And in fact, I know for a fact that a good friend of his offered him a job paying many, many dollars more than he's now making, but Doug just wants to be the head coach at Youngstown State.
It's a whole lot of cheese curds, huh?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Getting back to the relationships that you have with everybody, right? You, my friend, have become a Hall of Famer in the Curbstone Coaches. You're going to be up, and that's in when is that official?
In May.
In May.
In May, yes.
And the word on the street is there might be some supporters in the crowd willing to sing your praises because of all that you've done for them and the relationships that you had. For you, who is crazy enough, one of the most humble human beings I've ever met with all of your success, is it difficult? Like I find it, for me, when things are going my way, right, it's tough to have that attention on me because I'm so used to giving it somewhere else. You, in much so in the same way, you've always been giving attention to these coaches, these players, and all that. Do you find it challenging, or do you think it'll be difficult to have the attention on you for that moment in your legacy?
I'm kind of a ham bone. I appreciate. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't demand it. I don't need it. Okay, and I don't expect it. But I appreciate it when somebody says, "Gee, thanks for doing the right thing."
Mm-hmm.
One of Coach Holtz's axioms is do the right thing.
Yep.
And if there's one thing that I've always tried to live by is that particular word of do the right thing. And so it makes it, for me, very enjoyable if somebody makes mention that, geez, thanks for doing the right thing. And that amounts to everything. I don't care how big it is or how little it is. I don't care if it's in athletics, in business, in politics. Yeah, you need to do the right thing.
This is incredible to me. So we're going to go off script a little bit, if you don't mind. I have questions that I typically ask the student athletes, the coaches, things of that nature. I'd love to pick your brain about it. So the first question I always ask student athletes and coaches: who is your role model? Right. So who's the person that you looked up to or look up to in this day and age that keeps you going, kind of keeps you humble, your feet on the ground, but always looking up? And as someone who's, to me, at the top of the pyramid, who keeps you going?
You know, that's pretty easy for me to answer. It's my dad. My dad was he was just everything to me. My dad always did the right thing. My dad always had the positive answers. My dad, back in 1933, was the starting quarterback for the Sebring Hogue Billiards semi-pro football team. Wow. And it tickles me. The one picture I have of him is back throwing, and he had the leather helmet. Yep. And that. I remember growing up as a kid, my biggest thrill was wearing that helmet and the spikes that my dad had that he wore then. So, yeah, I learned a lot from my dad by watching and seeing what he did and did do the right thing. As a father, he was like in charge of all the kids. And we hung out at my place, and my dad was kind of our overseer. I remember back one day there was supposed to be a big battle between Salem and Lisbon. And they were going to be ball bats and chains, and they were going to meet down by the bridge in Franklin Square. Well, my dad knew about this, okay? So my dad called a meeting of all our kids. Like we were all playing on the ball team, and we were all going with our ball bats out to take on Lisbon. Well, my dad got us all there, and he's got a ball bat.
Your dad has a ball bat?
Yeah. He's standing there, and he says, okay, we're having a meeting, but guess what, guys? It ain't going to end by 6 o'clock because there ain't none one of you going to be in that battle with Lisbon down there. He said, you're crazy, and everybody's crazy with that, and you guys aren't going to be involved. And it turned out it was really funny. I mean, the cops were there. They, come in on everybody. I don't know that anybody ever got put in jail, from it. But, oh, yeah, it was
I love that.
It was a big battle. It was all scheduled, and of course, my dad, he had my group of guys, and he said, "There ain't one of you going to get in any trouble there, and I got this thing to back me up if I need. You ain't leaving." So that was that's the kind of guy my dad was.
Just your dad and a Louisville Slugger.
Yes, sir.
I
yes,
love
sir.
it.
Yes,
I
sir.
love it, and that's awesome to be where you're at and still have the presence of your father.
Yeah.
Every day and looking up to him, and because that's the thing. I mean, I lost my dad when I was 24 years old. So that in life, that's kind of where you start realizing that dad was right, and never got to tell him that. So that's awesome that you have that. From a business perspective, as a businessman myself, didn't set out to be one, right? Always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Felt I'd be in sports in some capacity. That day came for me that I'm hanging them up. So for you, I've heard stories. Now I get to hear it from the horse's mouth. When you start a business or you start a franchise or whatever capacity you started, there's naysayers. There's people that say you'll never make it. People that you're close to, that you're trying to get to buy into what your vision is. how was it for you when you started the franchise and you started really finding what you wanted to do and what you felt was right and could lead you to where you're at now? What were some of the challenges you faced?
Well, of course, the big challenge that everybody always faces is financial.
Hmm.
And I didn't have any money, and uh, I had spent most of my life, or earlier part of it, there in the automobile industry, and I'd had several opportunities to, start a dealership, but it took a little bit of money to put together the inventory and stuff like that, and I just never had enough money to do that. But I spent most of my life teaching automobile dealers how to make money. And so I became pretty good at it, and that gave me the I learned more than I think I taught because it was fun, and it was an opportunity for me to do a good service. And one of the jobs I had was business manager at Cadillac division, and they paid me to call on Cadillac dealers and teach them how to utilize a financial statement to make money. So for me it was more of a learning for me as I was teaching, and it made it pretty simple for me when I had the opportunity, and I was able to join up with a friend of mine and was able to do it with minimal dollars.
Hmm.
Now, you let it all hang out when you do something like that. I sold my house.
Yeah.
I sold it for $28,000. Okay, I owed 24 on it, so I had $4,000. Yeah, that was wow, and I had that left to be able to start the business. The one thing that I always from day one in the business world was this particular axiom: failure is not an option. Okay, I just went into it that I was not going to fail. Now, I also used a little common sense. I moved back to Ohio to start the business, and I moved back to Salem, Ohio. And why did I move to Salem, Ohio? I had two little daughters, and I had my parents here, and I knew that I had a place for my kids to eat and sleep in case I didn't make it. Now, as I said, my thought process was failure was not an option. But common sense says you cover your butt.
CYB.
And I had my bases covered. I was able to go full-fledged at my business and not have any worries that, geez, what happens if I don't make it? That was never a thought process, and it just it took off from there. The biggest and the most interesting part of the business world is hiring and bringing aboard the right people
Hmm.
and developing them, and
Like a coach.
that's the secret. And so that's how I moved into the business world, how I got involved, and how I started mine and was able to afford to do it. Fortunately, I picked a business that didn't require a big dollar amount for assets.
Hmm.
I had a desk that I think I bought for $75 and a chair. And eventually I had to buy another desk because I needed one staff person. And then it just went from there. I sat down before I did the business and I did a spreadsheet that I still have to this day. And I projected out exactly what I would do for the next 3 years and then 3, 5, 7 years out. and I was right on target. In fact, I totally blew it away. We did extremely well, a lot faster than I had even projected. But I went into it with no fear, no concern. Mine was, how quick can I get to my goals?
Did you have to put the blinders on? I mean, was that the scenario where you can't listen to negative, positive, whatever? You put the blinders on and just go?
Yeah, I can't say that I ever put blinders on.
Okay.
I didn't need blinders. You're going to get some comments, whether you want them or not. I just was oblivious to them. It's just get the hell out of my way. This
Love
is
it.
this is what I'm going to do, and it was a fun thing. The other thing is, it's also important that in a business, and if you're going to establish something, that you have the foresight to look ahead and say, what is the future of this business? What do I have to do? And, it's more than just this year and next year. When you're going all in, you want to know where you're going to be in 3, 6, 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a fun part of it for me because I was pretty good at projections. I could do pretty good job of putting it out there. I had a partner, actually the founder of the company, the guy that came up with the idea. He was a very brilliant tactician. He had the vision as this is what we could do. And then so he and I worked together on it because I was very good at mine was he would say this is what we need to do. I would come back to him and say, well, this is what we got to do to attain that.
To get there, yeah.
Yeah. So he and I worked together very well. He was the visionary that was able to project what do we need, what we should have in front of us, and then I was like the get it done guy,
Yeah.
and that's
We call it the GSD guy where
right
I'm
on,
from.
right on.
So basically he was the offensive coordinator, you were the quarterback.
That's kind of what it was, yes.
That's incredible.
And a lot of time in businesses, friends that start out together don't end up being friends. Well, to this day, it's amazing. He and I are still very good friends.
That's awesome.
The only difference today is he's a billionaire. I'm only a millionaire.
Only. The one of the last questions I want to talk to you about. We talk about this with coaches, with players all the time, with our player profiles and our coaches corners. What do you want your legacy to be? So when we're talking to student athletes, it's, how do you want to leave the program? How do you want people to remember you? How do you want, when you're Dan Yeagley and all those great coaches, Mike Pavlansky, Andy Hake, what do you want your legacy to be and why? So you're at a different level, right? It's still the business of sport and in the area. When people ask you, and I don't know if they've ever asked you, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want people to remember Bob Sebo?
I live every day, day by day. I take on the challenge of the day, and I never look at something as, oh my God, what do we have to do to get it done? Mm-hmm. Not what are the stumbling blocks. Why? My way of looking at things is not all the challenges that are out there. It's what do I have to do to beat these challenges and to go beyond it to come out on the winning, on the winning end. What do I want to be remembered as a I just would like people to, if my name comes up, just a smile, a reason to come on. Yeah, here was a good guy that always liked to do the right thing. And in terms of recognition and that, I've probably had as much or more recognition than I need for any human's lifetime. Okay, so anything that I accomplish beyond where it might be or what remembrances there would be of me was that you know he was a good guy, he did the right thing, and he enjoyed people.
I love it. So you talk about your accomplishments. Well, you have I mean, laundry list of accomplishments. Put you on the spot here. Do you have a favorite or uh, most prestigious accomplishment that you're proud of? I know you got to go pages.
Boy,
Right?
yeah, you know I have a lot of them that are in there, but you know, being the person that I am and the love that I have for my community and for Salem, probably one of those most satisfying to me is having my name on the stadium down there. You know, I back in my day, we had a nice grass field, and by golly, it was one of the best grass fields around. But you know, we didn't have face masks, and I have a large nose, and I took some hits. I Back in my day, I probably would have had to sit out half the game because today, because if you have a drop of blood, you
Yep.
can't. They pull you out. Hell, I had blood down my. They were taking blood out of my pants. We had silver pants. My silver pants had, blood from here, and it was running down. That's how we played. That was, blood and guts football. It was tough football, but it was fun, and and the guys I played with were, just absolutely good guys, and we had a great time. I remember. Heck, I could almost remember certain plays. I mean, I remember the play when I blew my leg out, and and it was against Youngstown Woodrow Wilson, and I had busted loose for what should have been a 90-yard touchdown run, and I blew my leg out with about the 30-yard line, 25-yard line, and they tackled me and rolled me into the what they call it. Of course, that finished me for a multitude of games. Very next play, our fullback took the ball, bam, hits, ball goes up in the air. Woodrow Wilson takes it. Psh, they go back 90 yards for a touchdown, and they beat us by one touchdown.
Oh,
So, me, those things happen. In my senior year, we had a 6-3 year, and I think the 3 games that we lost, if I had been able to play, because they came when including Woodrow Wilson, when I wasn't able to play, we might have had the only undefeated team in Salem since 1929.
wow.
And we still haven't to this day.
Yep.
There has not been an undefeated football team. We've had many years of 9-1.
You're looking at 100 years almost.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's
so.
incredible. All right, let's talk about your family. I know you're a big time family man. You look at this unbelievable landscape of what you've built here, and your family's certainly been able to take advantage of it. I mean, when people think of family, they think of, okay, it's my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife, whatever it may be. It's a little bit deeper for you. I mean, you bring in people that I don't know what the correct term is. You make them family. They're not blood family. They're not relatives. They're not related to you, but you make them family. Why is family so important to you?
You go through life, and you make a lot of friends, and you have a lot of good, close friends. Some friends that are almost like family. The difference is family, and never shall it be apart. It's it's like I told my girls. I said, here I am, a big football guy, and what do I have? All girls. I mean, I got all girls, and but when I got married to Linda a couple of years ago, uh, I was able to gain a stepson, and so I finally had my first boy, and I've been reliving my life in his because he's a really good
It
athlete,
sure is.
and it was fun to watch him play football and basketball and baseball, and even today he still competes at the baseball level. Uh, I've got a little golf course out there, and then for him, I bought I got a batting cage
Batting cage, yeah. Andy was
with
telling me about that.
with a pitching machine. It's the one the pros
Okay.
use, and so I put up the batting cage. In fact, you could see out there
Oh,
right.
yeah.
There's those are the pipes that we put the cage over,
Yep.
and then he can go out and do it. He doesn't. He's not as dedicated as I would like him to be.
He's not watching. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know. I I would like for him to be in the batting cage every day.
Yeah.
Well, he's not of that. He's one of those athletes that just walks on the field and is natural.
He's a natural.
He's a natural athlete, and he's really fun to watch because he's turned out to be a pretty big boy, and so it's fun to have a stepson and have my boy that I'm able to watch in some of the sports, but the girls, my stepdaughter. Courtney was one of the toughest girl basketball players. In fact, she and her team, they won the ITCL every year at United from the grade that she was in 7th grade. They won 7th, 8th, freshman, and all through high school. They won the ITCL, and they were dynamite. And it was fun to watch these girls. They were tough as hell.
Yeah.
I want to tell you. Whoa, boy, I wouldn't want to tangle with them.
But Courtney goes on, finds the love of her life in one of the area's best quarterbacks. Talk to me about that.
That tickled that tickled the daylights out of me when because again, being athletic minded, I had never seen Carter play, but I knew who Carter Hill was.
Everybody did.
Yeah, because Carter Hill was one of the best quarterbacks that's ever come out of the area here, and so it's fun. He's a big boy.
Yes, he is. Smart kid.
And I kid him right now. I says, "My God, Carter, you look more like a pulling guard than a quarterback." You know.
He's not watching either. You don't have to worry about that. We'll leave everybody with this, the last question, and not really a question, but more of a statement. So people are watching this. They see your success as everything that you've done. They look at your resume and they go, athlete, student athlete, band, entrepreneur, businessman, a person who gives back. Advice for someone that is a student athlete, no matter where they are in life, advice for someone that if they're not seeing success immediately right now, is there still hope for them? And how did what's one piece of advice that you kept throughout all your days?
Well, you've got to pick up the understanding that, it's the try again adage is the way to go. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And to me, that's the positive part about life and what a person should do. and the attitude that they should have about it, because nobody gets anything handed to them.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to earn it. But boy, excuse me,
Okay.
this doggone cold is a killer. Anyway, the attaining the success, you may have to take another shot at it, or take another direction to do it. But it's there, and it's available to come by, and you've got to see what the challenge is, and you got to figure out what you have to do to go get past this challenge, than to sit and waste time saying why this challenge is so difficult. It's just nothing difficult, man. You just get out there and do it, and if you can't do it this way, you figure out how to get it done another way.
I love it. Thank you so much for the time. I greatly appreciate it, Bob.
Appreciate it.
As always.
DJ, thank you.
Bob Sebo, the legend, here with us on your sports network. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you for taking the time to watch and listen. On behalf of all of us at YSN, DJ Yoakley signing off.